Back from another day at the office. Say, what do you want to do when you grow up, boy? A writer. Don't be ridiculous. Get something reliable that pays the bills. You know, something 9 to 5, preferably in a factory. When you're my age, you can retire and follow fleets of fancy like writing. Aww. Nah. Hey Writing Gang, faithful subscribers, or others that are new to the channel. So how to get from there to here, living in a school bus and writing books for other people for a living? I'm Justin Addis, aka The Roadside Writer. I've got a couple videos under my belt now, and I feel like it's time that maybe I let you guys get to know me a little bit. This is a video about how we don't always end up where we think we will, and following your dream, even when it doesn't necessarily look the way you imagined it. I hope explaining how I got here will help you figure out where you're going. This video is going to get a little real, and I'm going to talk about some personal stuff. Let's start from the beginning. I was born in the asshole of the United States, New Jersey. My family was very old and not too well off in the money department. I remember this story all of my siblings have told me before. My mom was probably 45 when she got pregnant with me. She gathered up all of my siblings, the oldest of which was 35 when I was born. And she gathered them around the table, and they had hamburger helper. We call it the hamburger helper story. And my mom told them all that she was pregnant, and they thought that she was screwing with them. But it turned out to be true, and lo and behold, the masterpiece arrived. Of course, after that Christmas, they boxed up the chimney. No more surprises from Santa. So things got off to a pretty rocky beginning. Almost as soon as I was born, my dad started having some serious medical problems. He had a bunch of strokes, and he went blind, so he never really knew what I looked like. He had incredible other senses, though. I swear he knew when I was getting off the couch from down the hall. He was fully disabled, and my mom had to work to pay the bills to keep us alive, all the time. As the 5th child in the family, I was left pretty much to my own devices. I tried to make some friends, but I had a couple things going against me. One, I was fat. I was a really fat kid. I was 90 pounds before kindergarten. 2, I had weird interests. I really liked coming up with stories and writing stories down. My oldest stories are from when I was 6 years old, and I wrote them in crayon in a notebook. I also really loved plants and gardening, which not a lot of boys that age are into. I also had no filter for my weird sense of humor, and if you know anything about kids, they can be wonderful little gifts to humanity, and they can also be horrible, especially to each other. I had a rough time, and honestly, I first discovered writing as a way to escape. So began my love affair with writing. Still have the ancient tomes, relics from when I first began. Now, honestly, my first stories were impressive for an 8-year-old. They were terrible, but they were also a great coping mechanism. Mostly all of them revolved around an underdog hero that no one really liked. I wonder who that could be. And it really helped me get through it because my heroes always did. This is a sample from the first book I ever finished when I was about 8 years old. I mean, yes, it wasn't good, but I actually dedicated the passion to finish the project. Vander never forgot. He escaped into the new world. His power had grown. He did not wish to harm anyone, so he concealed himself in some ruins he came across in his pursuit for happiness and tranquility. There he raised himself. He was left there, undiscovered by the world, until one day, a group of passing explorers came through and changed his life forever. So yeah, you know what, actually, I think I'm just gonna go take that and publish it and make a successful career writing. See you guys. Just kidding, it's really bad. But the point is, at 8 years old, I had a really good idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to write books, and I was really sure of that. I finished that book, and I went on to rewrite it probably 8 times before the end of high school because I was convinced that an agent was going to discover me, and I was going to make it big, and the world hadn't hit me like a derailed freight train yet. Something else I just dug out of that folder is the outline for something called the Strand Trilogy. And this actually ended up being the first series I went on to publish. The first book is out on Amazon, but I actually have this outline in this folder from probably 15 years ago. This is a story I came up with when I was pretty young, and I held on to it. And the idea has grown and evolved as I have. Characters, names, locations, everything in this outline almost is different now, except for the base concept, which is a society contained within a tower where the last of humanity survives. People are divided into class based on what they're biologically augmented to do. Yeah, it's a really good story. You should give it a read. I worked really hard on it, and the second book's coming out sometime soon. Anyway, ad over. This brings us to the next stage of the story, the golden years. When I was in high school, if only I could go back, mentally, transfer the brain I have now into the overweight, pimply, long-haired body I had back then. I was an awkward dude. No need to work, unlimited free time, things I could have accomplished if only I'd been open to criticism. I did work on my writing every chance I got. I did my homework in school during class, got in trouble for it a couple times, so that at the end of the day I could rush home and work on my writing instead. Affected with it. I loved writing, I lived for it. The only problem was, I thought I was a great writer. This isn't to say that you shouldn't have confidence as a writer, but your great downfall will be thinking you're great. I didn't realize this until I had wasted so many years I could have been using improving my skills. I wasn't that great at writing, despite having sought refuge in it for so many years. That was a hard pill to swallow, and I wasn't ready, so I continued to do it every day. It was an escape for me, from my lack of friends, my lack of general ability to do anything really well, and my dad getting sicker and sicker. I did it so much. How could I not be good at writing? I had to be good at it, right? Well, no, because no one is intrinsically good at writing. I wasn't good at anything else. I wasn't sporty. I wasn't particularly school smart. I was really chubby, so a lot of kids bullied me around mentally and physically. I needed something going for me, so I latched onto writing to save my sanity. The thing is, I was good at something, coming up with stories. I confused storytelling for writing. Two totally different things. Writing is a form of storytelling. Delivery? But I had to believe that I had some greater destiny to fulfill. Became obsessed with it. I had to achieve greatness in writing. It drove me to push my way through what I was going through. And if I hadn't had that, I probably would have developed even more problems than I already did. I let everyone call me Munchie, which is my nickname. I haven't started to call myself that, because laughing with everyone was better than getting laughed at, right? Do yourself a favor, and don't let yourself be the butt of anyone else's joke, no matter what your problem is. You deserve so much more than falling into the trap that I did. But all this time, developing a class clown persona around my insecurities, I hung on to one thing that I really cared about, which was writing. I kept writing drafts, outlines, and, rewriting Project Second Shadow. I loved it. I wrote every day. Then the time came towards the end of high school for me to choose which direction I was going to start walking in for the rest of my life. Now, my experience with bullying left me with self-esteem issues, to say the least. I did not have confidence in myself in what I wanted to do. So when I sat down and talked to my parents about it, my mom and dad, two basically blue-collar workers for all of their lives, told me there was no shot I could make it as a writer. It wasn't going to pay the bills. What was I going to do while I was waiting for my first book to make some money? I needed something reliable. So my mom suggested I go into teaching because I was good with kids. And I do like kids. But if only I'd had a greater sense of self and more confidence back then, I could have saved myself a lot of trouble. This brings me to the silver age of college. I, like many of my high school peers, was urged to pick a school. Not a major, not a passion, not a career, just pick a school. There are different types of students, and everyone needs a different type of guidance to find where the best place is going to be for them. I was given the cookie cutter treatment. Pick some colleges. What are your top 3 picks? What's your reach school? What's your safety school? I didn't know what the hell anyone was talking about, and all I really cared about was telling stories. So I just went along with whatever anyone said, and I kept writing on the side. So I went to the first school that caught my eye, because it was there, and no other reason. In my defense, I was 18, and if you think that's old enough to make a life-altering decision like that, then either you're in the same boat I was, or you're a lot wiser than I was at that age. In any event, I went to Alvernia University. I majored in early childhood education, like I mentioned earlier. And if there's one thing I'm glad I went to Alvernia University for, it's the people. I met a lot of good friends there, and my first girlfriend, whose who's now my wife. The education I got there, I could really have gotten anywhere. For less than the $60,000 price tag I left there with. $60,000. An 18-year-old kid taking out loans with no work experience has no grasp on how much money that really is. It's criminal to put that kind of choice on a kid that age. But I dug my hole, so now I'm here, at the bottom of it, with a degree I don't want to use. Not to teach traditionally anyway, but I do use a lot of the strategies I learned in college to teach you guys, so there's that. But I did realize something very important about myself in college, or at least I started to. All throughout classes and student teaching, none of which I really cared all that much about, there was one thing I held on to, one thing I couldn't let go of. That was writing. College is really where I discovered how much it meant to me. I would keep this folder with me under whatever notes I needed for that class, and if the teacher was lagging or just taking a while talking about one topic for longer than I needed, I would flip my stuff over and work on my writing during class. I cared about it that much. I needed to do it. That's what inspired me to pack up my latest version of Project Second Shadow and jump on a flight for California. I saved up what little money I could from campus jobs and working at Petco, and I bought a ticket to fly to California for the San Francisco Writers Conference. Everyone has a moment like this. Your first spark of real self-awareness. This was mine. I was going to pitch my book to agents. I was going to reach out and grasp for my dream. Little did I know, I had so much more to learn. At the San Francisco conference, I learned a couple vital things that changed me. One, I wasn't a teacher who wanted to write. I was a writer who enjoyed teaching. Two, I wasn't the amazing writer I thought I was. Sure, I was good at coming up with stories, but at the conference, I learned that that is a completely separate skill from being a good writer, from getting it down on paper with engaging language that puts people into your story and keeps them there. Writing isn't a talent, it's a skill. No one is born a natural great writer. It's something you can learn over time. You don't start progressing in that skill until you put aside your pride and learn how to accept criticism, something which I was really bad at when I was younger. So I attended pitch classes and crafting seminars. I learned all kinds of things about writing that I never knew because I never had formal instruction on creative writing. It's not something we really teach in schools, which is a crime. And part of the reason why I started this channel. And then it was my turn to pitch to agents, to gamble with my dream. I was so excited. And even though I fell flat on my face, it's not an experience I would trade for the world because I learned a lot from peeling my face off the floor. I think I had 3 or 4 agents request the first 10 chapters, 50,000 words, something around those ranges. And that is where my heart was absolutely crushed. I thought I made it. I had agents asking for written work from me. It was crazy, and it boosted my confidence so much, only to have it curb stomped into the dirt when they read the quality of my writing. And looking back on it now, they were totally right. I wasn't ready. My writing wasn't ready. I thought I was something I wasn't, a master craftsman in literature and storytelling. They told me, one, that I needed to show, not tell, more often. If you're not familiar with that phrase in writing, it means don't tell me the character's angry, make them throw something. They also told me I used way too many adverbs. Naturally, I speedily deduced that they had no way of accurately assessing the talents with which I don't really wordily write that badly. Really though, my writing used to be somewhere around that pet. But I loved it so much that I stuck with it. I took this advice to heart. I was a little crushed, but not to the point where I couldn't reinflate myself and try again. So I went on, I finished college. I graduated with my early childhood and special education degree. But before I could move on to get full-time employment as a teacher, I had a pact to fulfill with my best friend, Dominic. You see, Dom and I had made a promise to each other years ago that after college, we would hike the Appalachian Trail together. If you saw my other video, Get Out, then you know how this turned out. We did complete the trail. It was really tough. We were 2 broke kids straight out of college trying to hike the trail. We did have some minor camping experience, but nothing like the kind of backpacking you have to endure to make it all the way from Maine to Georgia. It's about 2,200-mile trip one way. It took us about 5 months, and I learned a lot about myself on that journey. If you want to finish it, it forces you to believe in yourself. Naturally, I had some lingering issues with the bullying, going out on a limb with the writing and getting crushed. I don't like to admit it, but I was left with a lot of voices in my head telling me how much I was worth, which wasn't much. And I wanted to shut them up. So I said, fuck fear, and I hiked the whole thing through. And then after the Appalachian Trail, I looked down the barrel of a long life teaching when I really wanted to write, and I said, I'm gonna write instead. I left the Appalachian Trail with a new confidence. I set my mind to do something, and I actually, for once, achieved it. It was really nice, and it still is something I hold to when I'm having a tough time. You know, that someone like me could hike the Appalachian Trail, that I was able to do it just because I wanted to. You know, maybe I can make it in other things that I want to do. I was ready to write. So I hiked up my fancy new confidence pants. I almost immediately fell off the wagon. For me, that meant I didn't know how to find a job as a writer. So I went back to teaching, or tutoring to be specific. So I moved on to Huntington Learning Center. Now the whole point of this winding road is eventually, this added up to me getting an opportunity to be promoted to assistant director of Huntington Learning Center. I was like, what, why? But I took it. I lasted about 8 months in that job. Writing was more important. I wasn't able to do it anymore, and that started to eat away at me. It wasn't even that I hated the job I was doing. I just knew that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to. During that time, my greatest accomplishment was that I finished and published my first book. Don't mind Holly over here, by the way. If you're a real diehard fan of my work, you can download it. It costs $1.99, and you're really supporting future writing endeavors. And I love you. Sorry. I love my cat. It's a great story, and you should check it out. But it didn't make me any money, which was part of the reason why I was so seduced by Huntington and took the assistant director position. I'm so glad I did it, though, because it really showed me how much I need writing. So I stepped back down to be a teacher, and then after a while, I actually stopped working at Huntington completely to find a job writing. It was terrifying. I didn't know what that even meant at the time. What kind of jobs can you get as a writer, especially without a degree in writing? Enter ghostwriting. This brings us to the age of unknown metals, which is current. Time has yet to show if I'm moving closer to the gold of achieving my goal or further away, even below the bronze. Ghostwriting pays the bills and puts gas in the bus, but obviously I don't retain credit for the work that I write. And I really need to do that to make a living as a writer. Enter Jump Cut Academy. Now, what is that? It's the online business course that I took to train me on videography and how to produce and market YouTube videos, which is what I'm doing for you guys now. But I've found through them that I actually really enjoy making writing help videos, and that it's a great way for me to connect with a wider audience and other writers. Through this, I've come to share my experience with all of you guys, and I really hope it helps you become a better writer and maybe a better person, helps you pursue something that you've been hesitant to go after. So that's it, guys. That's me. It's my story. Going from a fat kid with confidence issues to all of this. But seriously though, I hope listening to my story maybe helped you guys figure out something on your own. It was actually kind of therapeutic for me to talk it out. This video took me a very long time to make and edit, so I really hope it helped you. I genuinely do, and I want to connect with you guys about stuff like this. Please leave comments, shoot me messages, subscribe, please, to support this channel, but also I want to connect. I'm going to pass on to you something that my dad said to me before he passed away. Keep walking. Whatever it is you want to go after right now, and it seems too far away, or you keep falling down, just get back up and keep walking, and you will get there eventually. If you're doing what you love, even when it's a shitty part, enjoy it. It's always better to step in the shit of something you love. Those of you that watch every single one of my videos know that I always sign off with one of my critters. This is our dog, Willow. We just adopted her a couple weeks ago. So, here she is. She's awesome. She's been very quiet throughout the filming of this video, so she deserves a treat. Roadside Writer, out.